Hey pop lovers, welcome back to another episode of Pop Dirty to Me. We are joined by very special guests, Rachel and Raees from Warner Law. We are so excited to have you guys. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Where are you guys chatting with us from?
Scottsdale, Arizona.
Okay, so it's really hot. Not a white Christmas at all.
No white at all. White in the sky. That's about it.
Yeah. Well, that's bad. That's good. That's not bad. So I found you guys on TikTok, where I spend most of my free time, as most people are these days. And I was so intrigued with your legal hot takes. And then I looked you up and I saw your law practice is like even more intriguing. Can you tell us a little bit about the firm and the services that you offer?
Yeah, happy to. So Warner Law, it's myself, Raees Mohamed, and my partner, Dan Warner, the two partners. And our practice is unique, as you said. It's internet law predominantly and corporate law. So let me break down what the internet law part is. You could probably surmise by some of the TikTok posts that we've posted, but basically, yes. Internet law is sort of a conglomerate. It's pieced together of other areas of law, which involves online defamation, right? So influencers, representing influencers in their brand deals and reviewing their contracts, representing e-commerce companies, launch their e-commerce stores, building their terms of service, helping them with privacy policies, helping them in their ad campaigns, sometimes review web copy or ad copy to make sure it's compliant with FTC rules. Part of internet law is also sort of creeping towards, all of the issues that you would find with being a social media entrepreneur, which is how most people are starting out making their money on social media with advertising and building their own brand. And so all of the issues that you would think that arise in that scope, we probably handle. And we have a traditional business corporate law practice too, right? So buying businesses, selling businesses, partnership disputes, those kinds of things. But what's unique about us is, although we're a boutique firm here in Scottsdale, Arizona, we have clients nationally and internationally. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah, so anyone from any of the states or even out of the US can feel free to go ahead and use your services.
Yeah, absolutely. And depending on whether, this is a case that needs to be litigated, where something has to be filed in court, we may need an attorney locally licensed there. But more often than not, we certainly are always the lead counsel. We put this case strategy together. In all of our Arizona cases, we litigate ourselves.
So it seems like, especially with quarantine, so many people have had time on their hands to either do things on Instagram and get creative on TikTok, and more people are going viral. What is the first thing that users or creators can do to protect themselves once they go viral?
Yeah, so I have a few thoughts from a legal side, and Rachel, who's here from my firm. Rachel, say hi.
Hi.
Rachel's our marketing person. She does a bang up job. She's the one who's plugging our social on all of our channels and helping with our blog content and so forth. So
we see her on TikTok.
That's right. That's right. So so it's protecting I think your question was, how do you kind of protect your brand, right? As you're putting yourself out there.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a great question. I always tell people that you can't talk to an expert soon enough. Because I'm always pulled into the picture. Like 99% of the time, I'm coming in when it's either too late or there's significant exposure or risk. This just happened to me the other day, where a client came to me and their content was, let's just say, suspiciously similar to somebody else's content, right? And those are problems. You don't want to wait till a lawyer sends you a demand letter.
Yeah.
So there's a checklist on what you can do to protect your brand. And depending on what you do. So let's take a hypothetical client. Let's say you are a Instagram influencer and you have a blog, you do videos, and you appeal to the fitness niche, right? The first thing I would do is, have you looked at how you can protect your name and logo, since you're putting it out there in day one, right? So that's trademark law. So let's look at what intellectual property assets we can protect. Can we protect your name? Can we file a trademark? Have you been using it long enough? Let's evaluate it. Is it too closely similar to somebody else's name, right? There's nothing worse than having a brand that you've invested in and then discovering that, well, this is too close to somebody else and I don't want to change it. And it's, and people hate hearing that, even if it's true. So that's usually right on par with number one. Number two is, who else is involved in your business, right? And as you know, Maeghan, very few businesses are solo shops. I mean, you usually have either partners or you have somebody who's affiliated. Maybe they do the editing work. Maybe they're doing the Photoshop work, right? What are those relationships like? How do we bolt them down? Because unfortunately, sometimes those are the most common sources of problems, right? Where content creators are like, well, this is my content. I'm not an employee. I want to use this with Jeff, and not just with Amanda. Like, what does that look like? How do we solve that problem? So we want to clean those relationships up. The next thing I look at is sort of, if you have partners, how are you structuring your relationships? And that goes for formal partners, business partners, right? Who actually share ownership, but it could also mean marketing and ad partners who are not technically partners, but they're consultants.
Yeah.
So those are kind of like the initial stages of how do we cut down exposure and analyze risk. And it's just so different for everybody, depending on how you market your product and service and what you're doing, right? There's different exposure.
And now, it's not just Instagram, TikTok. I mean, so many things are growing. For example, OnlyFans is like the latest craze with, I feel like, so many people have been furloughed, and this is a great way, easy way to make money. But there's been issues where people are stealing other people's pictures, paying for their services, and then posting them for free elsewhere. Have you guys had issues or cases that deal with that?
Yeah, we've certainly had inquiries, and this is a growing problem. Like, I kind of compare this to where I've been doing defamation and internet law work for 10 years now, more than 10 years.
Wow.
And I see where OnlyFans is going, kind of where YouTube videos started 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
The issues with YouTube videos where, I mean, it's only in the last 5 to 10 years that you have these people exploding with a huge user base and like 10 million, 15 million subscribers, right?
Yeah.
Or in the case of Mr. Beast, 45 million subscriber, 48 million. That guy's insane.
You can't even wrap your head around that. It's crazy.
It's crazy. But so OnlyFans is unique in the sense that you are giving the power of paid content creation on an individual level, but also mass scale.
Yeah.
In the adult world. And it doesn't have to be in the adult world, right? Like you and I or Rachel could have an OnlyFans, and we could have paid subscribers who pay us to do consulting content.
Yeah.
Maybe we want to do tips. You can ask us questions, right? You can have a dialogue. It doesn't always have to be, but let's face it, the reality is it's mostly people, doing shit naked.
Yeah. But they're making like serious money. I mean, I saw a girl on TikTok who made $45,000 last month, and I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing here?
Well, another thing that people also don't consider about OnlyFans is that they also get taxed on that. So some people who aren't really familiar with having to pay taxes are like, oh, I'm making all this money, and then they kind of end up getting into trouble because of the taxes that they have to pay on that income.
On that point, right? So I didn't answer your question, Maeghan, but let's go back. But Rachel's exactly right. You've created this, there's now a new era, or there will be, of legal issues spawning off of all these people making fast money without any idea of how to protect themselves, right? So the inquiries we get, exactly like what you said. Somebody took my picture, they're posting it on XYZ site, they're charging money for it, or giving it out for free, or they're harassing me with it, right? How do you stop that? And unfortunately, there's two problems with this. One, OnlyFans, once you put content out there, even if you market private, it's out there.
Yeah.
I don't think people have to get comfortable with that. Like if you do one,
you could screenshot that and have it airdrop it to the whole neighborhood. Like
100%. It's so even though you're doing it on one-to-one, you always have, if you're on the OnlyFans platform, you have to think at scale. You have to think, I might be comfortable doing this once with this one person who's going to pay me $100 or $5,000, but what if 100,000 people saw this? Am I comfortable with that? What have I done to protect myself? So when it comes to images, to cut to the chase, images are protected by copyright law. So if you took the images or you hired somebody to take those images for you, and assuming that was documented in writing, or if they're your employee, you own it. Okay. So you don't have to file a copyright to get that protection. Most people don't understand that. Copyright gives you other rights, like get suing for damages. But if I want, let's say Megan's got my pictures. So Maeghan just started following my OnlyFans account. And she's like, oh man, I'm going to take Raees's 10 pictures and I'm going to post it on this private forum and I'm going to start charging money because everybody wants to pay for Raees's pictures. I wish that was the case.
Yeah.
But
me too.
But you know, if I discover it, I can absolutely demand that you remove it because you've exceeded the scope of the rights I gave you, which was simply to purchase and view. You can't mass disseminate. So you would make a demand. Unfortunately, if the demands are ignored, you'd have to sue. And you'd have to try to get what we call an injunction, right? To get a court order to say you have to stop. That's not always easy. It's not always cheap, but it is a right that you have.
So these, I like Rachel was saying, I think that so many girls, and I'm sure there are guys as well, doing this don't know this, and it's like a quick, easy way to make money, and they are running with it. You know,
right?
It's insane. I've to say I haven't contemplated it would be a lie. My husband would kill me, but
or he'd love you for it. One of the two, right?
That's what I told him. I'm like, listen, you know, I don't know, would you really care? So
you know, it's definitely spawned. OnlyFans is just one platform.
Yeah.
You know, I actually have clients in the space that have other platforms. You know, and to some degree, this has been going on for ages because you have cam, right?
Yeah.
You have cam show platforms and people have been making money on that. But what's unique about OnlyFans is it really just vitalized everybody. It invigorated people who have a camera, a phone, and want to flaunt their bodies. And I feel like it was a natural progression from Instagram because people were kind of doing it on Instagram.
Exactly. But this is like if you want to see a little bit more, but pay me.
A little bit there. See, that's the difference. It's a little bit more and pay me.
Yeah.
And a little bit more and pay me is it's really just raking in, you know, a huge following and fan base now.
I'm jealous I didn't think of the idea.
Right. And I'm waiting for the time where OnlyFans moves into more like professional content. I don't know if it'll happen. Maybe it will. But there's a market for that too. It's not as big as the adult.
Yeah.
And I always joke around with people. Porn has moved the internet in so many directions. People don't realize this. I don't know if you know this, Maeghan. Rachel, maybe you know. But the porn industry online single-handedly pushed internet speeds faster and improved the quality of cameras.
No, I did not know
that. That is the reason. I'm not kidding you.
I didn't know that.
It is one of the main reasons that like cell phone cameras and, you know, webcams, if you look at the history, they were actually building those things in infrastructure, high-speed connection because of porn demand.
No, I had no idea. It's like, no, we need to see this clearer.
Yeah.
And I say this like regardless of how people feel about pornography, whether they think it's, you know, it's the devil's work or it's the greatest thing mankind has ever, regardless of your view on it, it's just reality. This is where we are as a society. Right. This is what's happening right now.
Well, that's what's so funny with OnlyFans, because I always think, well, you know, you can just look at free porn, but I think it's so funny how the mind works that they're like, no, I want to pay to see this person that I wouldn't have been able to see if I didn't pay this $20. You know, it's so funny.
Exclusivity, like it appeals to people that it's almost exclusive in a way. So
yeah, it's so strange. But so when I stumbled upon you guys on TikTok, I saw your legal hot takes, which is all things pop culture, but with a legal spin. And one of the stories right now is Real Housewife Erika is filed for divorce and is getting into some hot water with her husband, who they are saying has been embezzling funds and is in some hot water, which is crazy. It's difficult for me, who I'm not an attorney, to understand all the legal things behind this. So we're trusting you to break this down for us.
Well, to start, I just think that this whole thing is insane, considering the fact that he is such a high-profile attorney. You would think that somebody who has had such, you know, legal success would not be getting into such legal issues. What's funny to note about Tom is that he actually was one of the attorneys that was a part of the case that inspired the movie Erin Brockovich with Julia Roberts.
Yeah.
So he's been like a household name in LA for a long time, and you know, when they were first introduced on The Housewives, Erika says that she met him when she was a waitress. So it was kind of like a rags to riches story.
Yeah.
And since she filed for divorce, I think maybe in November, end of October, there's been all this drama that has come to light surrounding their divorce, people alleging that it was all a hoax to protect their assets at first. And then there was a lawsuit filed against Tom from a different law firm claiming that he had been embezzling settlement funds from a Boeing plane crash victims, and been using that to fund Erika's lavish lifestyle that we all see on The Housewives. Raees, if you have any insight into how that would work legally.
Yeah, this is really, it's kind of like even difficult to fathom. You know, as lawyers, one of the most sacred things that you come across is, you know, funds belonging to your client.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's $100 or in this case, $500,000 per client. And there's at least 4 clients. We're like, WTF, where's my dough?
Yeah.
And as the court and as commentators have correctly said, you're talking about widows and orphans. You're talking about the estate, family members of plane crash victims from, you know, an Indonesian flight. And this is all they're going to get, kind of a thing. And, you know, based on court documents, we know this much. We know that the judge that's presiding over this case believes that this dude embezzled the money. Like, I don't think this has grown from an allegation to
this happened.
This is the money's gone.
Yeah.
I haven't heard Mr. Girardi's defense say something like, the money's here, guys, we found it.
No, he's saying that he doesn't know where it is, and then he's been hospitalized for a serious illness. So it's very vague. He doesn't know where the money went, and he's in the hospital. So it's
jacked. It's totally jacked.
Yeah.
So the judge, to use the judge's words exactly, the judge called this lawyer's conduct unconscionable. And it's rare in civil cases for judges to directly address a defendant in a case like that and say, like, dude, you're the devil, basically.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
This is no accident. You know, like, where is this money? And Girardi's lawyers are saying, I haven't seen an admission that, yeah, Your Honor, you know, my dude embezzled the money and we'll pay it. They're kind of like talking about his mental capacity.
Yeah.
You know, they think he needs a mental evaluation. I mean, the dude's 81 at least.
Yeah, he's 81.
And so, right. And the other thing is, you know, there's a contempt. There was recently in the last couple of weeks, there was a contempt hearing. So what that means for all the non-lawyers is basically the judge issued an order. Order is you don't move any money. You don't sell any assets. Here's the order. We're going to look into your finances. And he must have moved money or done something to violate the order. So the judge held a contempt hearing. Say, tell me why, give us evidence why I shouldn't sanction your ass right now, because this is such a big deal. And here's my order precluding you from doing these things. And you're doing them, notwithstanding the fact that you embezzled the money already. Like, it's crazy. It's really crazy.
Also interesting too is that the judge is ordering him to at least pay $2 million. And from what I've seen on the show, I mean, he probably has way more, like hundreds of millions of dollars from what was claimed on the show. So you're thinking, you know, I don't understand why he can't just cough up that much at least. So I don't know.
And would, in the event that he has to go to jail, would Erika also be like, would she also have to go to jail?
That's a good question. You know, it really depends on what they find, right?
Okay.
So if a trustee is appointed to investigate where this money went and she pilfered the money and she knew, if she had knowledge of the money, that this was client money, she could certainly have liability exposure, certainly. And whenever you have cases with spouses, it's always tricky. What I think is going to happen is, I think they're going to get her on some tax claim. I think with her, the focus is, because right now we just heard that Girardi also has millions of dollars in unpaid tax liens.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they were married for 20 years. And if you're married and you're filing jointly, your spouse has exposure for your tax lien. So I think that's the low hanging fruit. That's easy, right? So I think for her, it'll be tax versus criminal embezzlement.
Yeah.
Right. What's also interesting is that relates to another housewives issue with Teresa and Joe, how they both went to jail for his tax issues.
Yeah.
And she was unaware of that when it was going
Wink,
on,
wink.
allegedly unaware.
Allegedly.
So, I mean, it kind of would go hand in hand with, if they are going to get her on the tax issues, it would be kind of a, you know, similar situation to what happened with Teresa and Joe.
It's a little bit of a coincidence, I would say, that they filed for divorce and then all of this started to unravel. You know, it's just a little shady. Another a legal hot take that is really hard for us and so many people to wrap their head around, but it's been really talked about this, like in quarantine this year, is Britney Spears and her conservatorship. There's so many things that are changing like almost weekly about this that it's almost hard to keep up. For those that don't know, can you explain like what a conservatorship is?
Yeah, conservatorship is a term, if you think about the word conservator, conservation, right? It's somebody who's appointed to protect and preserve assets of somebody, specifically somebody who has diminished mental capacity. And before a conservator is appointed, there's a process. And it's not like you just allege, hey, you know, Megan's crazy, she's lost her mind, let's get somebody to protect her assets. There's a hearing. There's evidence presented. There's testimony, right? Both sides get it, and the judge makes a decision. So a conservator is exactly that. Somebody who's appointed to protect the assets because it is understood based on evidence that this person can't protect their own estate or assets. They'll deplete or abuse, you know, their own money.
And do we know any updates? Like, I mean, she has been under this conservatorship, I believe for almost 12, 13 years. She just turned 39. So essentially this is a grown woman with 2 children who has toured and made millions while still not having any say in anything in her life.
Nope, she can't even drive her own car. Well, the latest update is that she basically tried to get her father removed as sole conservator and have another team come in to be a co-conservator, which was a financial institution to come in and kind of look over the assets, because she or her attorney said they didn't really trust her father's judgment with her, you know, finances. So they were able to get him, you know, he's still a co-conservator, and then they got a financial institution to come in as another co-conservator. So they have that going on, but he's still not removed. She's still under the conservatorship, but she does have the ability to file another request to have it reviewed. So it's not that she can't, you know, she won't, she's not free yet, but she has the possibility to be free in the future.
It's so crazy. I don't even know if she knows what that's like anymore, to be able to drive her own car or have a say of anything that goes on in her life and in her business. I can't even wrap my head around it, and I'm 10 years younger than her. It's insane.
It's sad, and I think that, you know, for the most part she probably does have some issues mentally, and I think a lot of that was brought on because of her fame and because of you know, all the exposure that she's had in her life. But you know, at the end of the day, I think that Britney would probably just like to be free and to have to stop working. Because even while she's in the conservatorship, she was doing her Vegas tour. She was working like all the time. So you'd think that if she really was so incapable of doing stuff, she wouldn't be working still. So that's kind of where I think the thing is fishy. But
I agree. She recorded 3 albums. She did her Vegas residency. She had perfume deals. So, you know, it's...
You know, it's interesting. It's interesting. I don't know what to think personally. I don't know that she's so mentally out of whack that she can't, that she needs a conservator. But 2 things that I thought were interesting. One, right now, as far as I know, there is a financial company, a trust, a corporate trustee who's kind of been appointed as a co-conservator. So it's not 100% her dad. The second thing was, so I feel like maybe the judge thought, you know, there's either sufficient conflict of interest, or maybe the dad could be taking something that we can't account for, whatever, but there's 2 conservators. The second thing was what Britney Spears's attorney told the judge, which is that, you know, my client's afraid of her father. And I think the afraid of her father part comes from like being afraid that this guy's just going to shut me down. Like she's not touring, right? Like you said, she's not driving her car. It's like being, you know, 16 again.
Right.
And
she even had like even just to that degree, she even had her ex-husband, Kevin Federline, file a restraining order against her father on behalf of their children because apparently he had been acting abusive towards their sons. And Britney can't herself file that restraining order because she has no grounds to make any legal decisions for herself. So her husband did that. So that also, or her ex-husband, that just shows, you know, it's just crazy. She can't even do that on her own. So.
And doesn't he make money as her conservator?
Yes, he does. He has a salary for doing that. And, you know, the attorney's fees alone has kind of drained her, you know, estate. I mean, you look at Jessica Simpson and you look at Christina Aguilera and all these pop stars who came up around the same time as Britney. They have hundreds of millions of dollars in their net worth. Britney has like, I think it's like 30 million, like, and she should have way more. So it's kind of crazy. Like, you know, maybe her father had not taken care of that money in that time. Maybe it was Britney before, you know, depleting her assets when she was going through that mental break or whatever. But it's still all kind of fishy.
For sure. And I hope that it gets resolved soon because this has been going on for way too long. It needs to get resolved. So one more legal hot take I want to get into. 2020 has been a crazy year for everybody, but especially for Vanessa Bryant. She's been dealing with some legal issues with her own mother. Can you talk to us a little bit about what's going on there?
So I guess basically Vanessa's mother is claiming that she is owed millions of dollars in back pay for being her personal assistant and for babysitting her children for years. She's claiming that Kobe had promised to take care of her and that Vanessa, her daughter, is going back on that promise since his death and just basically suing her for a bunch of money, claiming that she wasn't paid, when Vanessa is saying that that's not true. She only babysitted, you know, our daughters when they were toddlers years ago on occasion. And we had, you know, had a home and car paid for. She lived in one of our properties for free. So, you know, it's kind of sad that, you know, her mother is taking advantage of her at a time like this. But, you know, Raees, if you have any legal insight into what that looks like.
Yeah, I think there's kind of two problems. You know, to get more specific on this, apparently Vanessa Bryant's mom wants $96 per hour for 12 hours a day for 18 years.
Wow.
What were you doing for 18 years? You know, like,
what were you doing in that hour to get $96? I mean, that's crazy.
Here's my point. If you really thought you were being treated unfairly, would you have shut your mouth for 18 years? Like,
exactly. Of course not.
You know, it's because she was living in the lap of luxury. And I don't know what kind of lifestyle, you know, Vanessa Bryant's mom comes from. But I'm assuming it wasn't as opulent as when she ultimately married Kobe Bryant, right? And got to live in their house for free and for so many years and enjoy all the things that you would enjoy as a mom and as a grandma, right? As a mother-in-law. And to create this narrative. And I think the problem is, this is going to be interesting, but I think there's some technical hurdles here. Like, what about the statute of limitations? Hasn't that gone? Like,
true.
As a lawyer, I look at this and I'm like, aren't there so many holes? I think this is just a money grab. And maybe she'll go away with a few $100,000, but certainly the allure of all this money dangling over Vanessa's head now, because she obviously, Kobe had a sizable estate.
Yeah.
And you know, he worked really hard for it. I think the mom is just kind of trying to get her part of it.
Yeah, which is sad, especially after, I mean, it's sad in general, but after everything she's been through this year, it just might not be.
Have a family member go, like, you know, against her.
Seriously, you guys are so knowledgeable with everything. Thank you so much for being here and chatting with us. I have learned so much. I'm sure my listeners have as well. For those listening that want more information on services such as social media law to protect yourself from when going viral, visit RM Warner website. It's rmwarnerlaw.com, correct?
Yes.
That's right.
Perfect. And you guys can also follow them on TikTok for more legal hot takes and lots more.
Yep, our handle on all social is pretty much the same. It's RM Warner Law, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok,
Facebook,
YouTube.
Yep.
Maybe OnlyFans soon for legal advice. You don't know.
Maybe.
Thank you guys so much. I hope that you have a great new year, and I hope to chat with you guys again soon.
Yes,
Thanks,
thank
Maeghan.
you so much.
Have
Take
a
care.
great one. Bye.
Bye. Happy New Year.